Good morning and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriation now called to order. Today is Thursday, May 2nd, and the time now is 9 o'clock. In compliance with the open government law, the notice for the public hearing were posted on the GovGuam public notice portal on GTA TV Channel 21 and Docomo Channel 117, and live stream on the Guam Legislature YouTube, and disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets on Thursday, April 18, and again on April 30th. Today, we will be discussing the budget on the Office of Public Accountability. This is in reference to Bill 236-37 COR, Committee on Rules, by the request of I Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act making appropriation for the operation of the executive branch of the Government of Guam for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions. At this time, I ask the members of the Office of Public Accountability to rise and be placed under oath by the Sergeant at Arms.
Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Mr. Chair, you're under oath.
Thank you very much, Sergeant at Arms. General rules for this budget hearing. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopy and distribution. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony may reside by members of the committee. I know I was expecting more of my colleagues to be here this morning, but that's okay. We can still take care of the Office of Public Accountability. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for this proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum will be restricted from participating and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that are here with me, but there's no one here with me. But I expect Senator Joanne Brown is due to arrive in a few minutes. But with that, I'd ask the public auditor, please give his opening statement on his budget. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We submitted the letter, and I'll read it into the record since you wanted a statement. Senator Agustin and committee members, the Office of Public Accountability is pleased to present our fiscal year 2025 budget of $2.194843. This budget encompasses $1.9 million to sustain our current staff complement of 15, including 2 staff promotions and the addition of 2 new accountability auditors. Additionally, $295,000 will fund rent and other contractual obligations, inclusive of funding for procurement appeals, hearing officers, equipment, website services, audit, software license, and maintenance and utilities. Our $2.19 million budget request represents 0.25% of the FY25 executive budget request, total general fund revenue of $877,937,338. While the 38th Guam Legislature commendably increased budget appropriations to OPA in 2023 and 24 by granting 0.25 of annual and general gross revenues of the Government of Guam through legislation included in the General Appropriations Act of 2023, OPA's continuous appropriation of 0.25 for FY25 and beyond is not included in the General Appropriations Act for FY24. Our office's commitment to safeguarding our independence is paramount for promoting accountability and effective governance through GovGuam. This commitment is supported by continuous training to maintain a professional and competent staff to execute our audit mandates effectively. Our strategic priorities in our updated 2024 to 2028 strategic plan focuses on enhancing our independence from budget control by securing an amendment to the OPA's enabling legislation for a continuing annual appropriation of not less than 0.25 of the annual total general fund gross revenue of the GovGuam, as proposed in Bill 227-37, introduced by Senators Joanne Brown and Talo Tadegui. This proposed legislation is a significant step in protecting OPA's independence and imperative to upholding our integrity and serving the public interest for the benefit of our island. OPA's budget trend for the last 3 years is as follows. For FY24, OPA's appropriation was $2,030,737, or 0.25 of the FY24 total general fund revenue available for appropriation. For FY23, OPA's appropriation is $1,653,203, with an additional $371,607 from an unappropriated balance for fiscal year 2022. These amounts total 0.25 of the FY23 revenues. For FY22, OPA's appropriation was $1,653,203, $1.1 million for personnel, and $599,000 for appropriations. The carryover authorization of the $98,346 from FY21 lapse was used to purchase new equipment, replace aging workstations, and fund additional personnel costs in FY22. The attached PowerPoint presentation highlights OPA's accomplishments this past year, our audit procurement appeals plans, and achieve our goals and objectives. As part of OPA's FY 2025 proposal, we respectfully request the legislature to approve OPA's budget of $2,194,843, authorize carryover of any allotted but unexpended balance of funds appropriated to the OPA for FY 24 and prior fiscal years, and authorize and codify the OPA's continuing annual budget of not less than 1/4% of Guam's annual total general fund gross revenue for FY 25 and beyond, as proposed in Bill 227-37. Should you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Auditor Cruz, Speaker Cruz. So basically, what you see in front of you, this document here, you're comfortable us supporting your request of 2.194, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And with that, I'd like to also recognize Senator Brown and Senator Tello that's here with me today. Senator Brown, do you have any questions on their request, which I'm supporting? So generally, we're good with it so far.
No, not at all, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the opportunity, certainly to our public auditor and your staff for being here with you this morning. Certainly, we wanted to ensure and extend the support to your office because your office, as you know, provides a very critical service to this government and to the people by ensuring that all public money is properly spent. And certainly, if we can't ensure your office is operating properly, our people can't ensure that their money is being spent where it's supposed to be spent. So we certainly support you. I don't have a lot of questions, but I do want to get some feedback, public auditor, because you have done extensive budgets in the time you've served in your capacity, and we were very concerned that a lot of your work, once they've been reported, kind of sits on the shelf because we haven't seen a lot of action. I mean, some things may be administrative in nature, and department and agencies may need to correct their procedures and their processes to make sure that they're on track. And I know you've always extended that advice to them and assistance to them to facilitate it. But in cases where you may have found, really improper or illegal use of public money, has there been any progress with regards to your work with the Attorney General's office on addressing any of these cases? I mean, he noted publicly recently there's like 21 cases that he's looking at in the government of Guam as a result of audits that were conducted by your office. And I just wanted to get some feedback from you with regards to that process, because ultimately what we would like to see is government officials in compliance. Not so much we want them to get in trouble and be convicted, but certainly if they misuse public money, then so be it. But, to know that you are there and the Office of the Attorney General is there is what we want to know. Are we following up on those audit cases where concerns have been red flagged by your office?
Thank you very much for that question, Senator. Yes, I can report today that the Attorney General's office has spent quite a bit of time in our office. Our various teams that have issued audits in the last couple of years the Attorney General's investigators and attorneys have been in the office to interview them and make their determination. As you know, it is the Attorney General's power and duty to make the prosecution decision, not I, or as I was told when I was a judge, not even the judge is supposed to make that decision. That is the prerogative of the Attorney General. We have been giving him all the information that we have, and he and his staff have been taking it, and I'm hoping to see that some action comes out soon. But he has been in our office. I mean, not he personally, but his attorneys and his investigators have been interviewing our staff, and they will make the decision on whether or not they have enough information to make the decision to prosecute.
I know another issue, Mr. Public Auditor, that you brought up was concerning the autonomous agencies. Of course, that they contract out with regards to paying for the audits that your office consolidates and reviews and determines to be the case for that particular fiscal year. And you had mentioned in the past you were having difficulty sometimes getting the responses that you need in a timely fashion, even from these companies that are hired, these private companies hired to do the audit, because ultimately you were not the one actually paying, your office was not directly paying for these audits, and they were not as responsive to your office in responding, even though you are the Office of the Public Auditor. What feedback have you gotten, and where are those issues with regards to the autonomous agencies providing funding directly to your office for you to contract and administer these audits?
We have been trying to implement that. The problem has been trying to either set up a trust account or have it have the money kept by Department of Administration and paying out. But as of this year, I am starting to approve the payments of the progress payments for the external auditors. Mm-hmm. It's submitted to my office. It's reviewed by the by the auditor in charge of that, oversight of that audit, submitted to me, and then with my final approval, mm-hmm. then it goes back to the Department of Administration for the release of the check.
Well, I certainly hope that works out better for you this year, because you should not have to be running after anyone in your capacity to respond, particularly with regards to the expenditure of government funds that need to be audited by your office and have your oversight. And I know Senator Tello will elaborate on this, because her bill, recently came up again for override last week. The fact that you've had difficulty getting these department and agencies to properly turn in their information so that you could provide us in the legislature in a timely fashion, and more importantly, the people of Guam, this audit information, so that when we are here reviewing the budget and approving the budget for the new fiscal year, we have audited information on which we can make decisions. Otherwise, we're kind of operating in the blind. We're kind of guessing. We're just estimating, and we're not really as accurate as probably we could be if we had that information available. And I know you've made every effort. I've heard you publicly, in addition to following up and writing to these department and agencies to provide their information in a timely fashion, and some of them, for whatever reason, are not on the ball, or not doing their job, and not delivering on what they're supposed to be in terms of being accountable, most importantly, for how they're spending public money. And so, what are your thoughts this year? Do you think you're going to be in the same situation now that this current legislature has chosen not to hold these department directors responsible for performance?
I want to thank both of you for championing that legislation. The unfortunate truth is that what the agencies really need is to invest in a team of accountants to do their books and auditors to do internal audits to make sure that they're following up. But they don't. I think publicly you've seen what's happened at GDOE. They just have not. They have a great audit division, but the accounting division really needs help. And you've heard me in the past say that we've got to invest in that. Two agencies that have been really different, well, three. GDOE over the last several years has had to handle billions of dollars, really, seriously. And until this last year, well, a few months ago, they didn't have a CPA in charge. They finally got one, but he's either resigning or he's on his way out. They've gone through CPAs in succession, unfortunately. But they need to be adequately paid. Public Health and Social Services, they have, our office is now doing a Medicaid performance audit, but last year, trying to get the information from them, they don't have the staff that knows how to put these things together and reports. And the agencies really need to, and the government needs to, invest in making sure that every agency that has federal funds, and especially federal funds in the amounts that, I believe Medicaid is like 160 million by itself, and SNAP is even bigger than that. But they haven't invested in an accounting division up there that's adequately paid. And it's necessary because they're handling that much money. And if we're going to have each of these departments handling that much money, they need people with the proper education, the proper training, and adequate salaries so that they can stay, as opposed to being poached by the autonomous agencies, as now there is that whole now brouhaha over GPA and GWA increasing their salaries, and the possibility that, you know, having it understood that the certified personnel of those two agencies really should be either the linemen and the people that are going out, but not necessarily the accounting staff doesn't need to be at 55% percentile of national power and water authorities. They should be commensurate and equal with the rest of the government of Guam, so that there isn't this constant. But anyway, we need to invest in those agencies to have the proper personnel to be able to turn out the reports and to get them out. This year, the audits are, well, and last year, the delay was OPEB, the other post-employment benefits. And it just took a long time for the number to be finally agreed to by the outside agency. And once we got over that and everybody agreed on what the number was, then we were able to get the audits out. But that was a delay last year. This year, I thought we had the final last week, but I just got an email this morning. There's a question, and so there may be further delay of the component units getting out. But that has to be done. GASB has this new rule on leases, and a couple of the agencies were really having problems with getting the number that they needed to understanding what leases to include. I brought out a reputable accounting firm team. Two guys actually came out and did a three-day training of, I thought, everybody that was involved in each of the departments. Some departments did not show, unfortunately, and as a consequence, we're having problems trying to get that number out. And those two numbers are huge numbers in each of the agencies, and until those two numbers are resolved, then the final financial audit is not going to be finished. Or if it is, like PBS, they needed to get their financial statement to NPR in the States, and they agreed to have their audit issued earlier than the OPEB number was ready, And so as a consequence, theirs was a qualified audit because it didn't have that number, that final number in there. And so it's those two things that are holding it up. And so that's some of the problems that we're having, besides trying to get procurement of audit agencies for some of the departments. As all of you know, Deloitte closed 2 years ago, and as a result, there really is only one big audit company on Guam, Ernst Young, that is able to do audits. And a second one, Berger Comer, that does Gov Guam Retirement Fund, will do some of the smaller audits, but it doesn't want to do a big government agency with federal funds. And sometimes when you're trying to get around not making it a sole source audit, a sole source procurement. We've even gone to Hawaii. We're sending it out to firms in Hawaii and in the States, just publishing it anywhere so that we don't get accused of having a sole source, but we only get one response, and sometimes no response. Sometimes in one agency we were trying to get it done, their audit done, and they were so small that nobody wanted to pick it up. And we issued 4 times. That was costly, but we had to comply. But it was just there's just as a shortage. And at the University of Guam, unfortunately, we're not turning out as many accounting people as we used to. And so there is a shortage of that. Same thing with the lawyers and doctors, and it's just, I don't know what's happening in the next generation. But the thing is that thankfully the university is trying. They're even having a master's program in accounting. And so hopefully that's going to provide us with more people that can help. But the government has to make the decision that they've got to invest in making sure that the accountants at the Department of Administration, which handles billions of dollars, with the Department of Public Health and Social Services that handles hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in funds, and the Department of Education, unless they get people that know how to account for the funds and can audit it to make sure that it's being done properly, we're going to have delays. And that was the problem that we had last year with public health. They just didn't have anybody that knew how to compile everything to get it down to the auditors. And so we're going to have to, at some point, make that decision. The departments are going to have to make that investment within their departments. And that was my criticism of GDOE when they had the problem a couple of weeks ago. I said, I thought you guys promised me that the 1.3 that you were saving from the third-party custodian was going to be moved to augment and increase the salaries of your accountants so that you can attract people. And unfortunately, it wasn't done. And we need to have it, otherwise all of these reports are going to be late. As it relates to the performance audits, a lot of times it's just really difficult. Some of the agencies are just so backed up. When especially unfortunately, like with revenue and taxation, we almost have we have staff that almost lives there, trying to find things, but they're slowly coming around, and I want to thank the legislature for finally passing that bill to have customs and quarantine get that new harmony system because it's great. Vince just came back from a field visit at the Port Authority, and it's hopefully will make a change. And but I thank the legislature for finally getting that done. we've been saying in audits for almost 10 years now that revenue taxation, customs and quarantine, and revenue taxation need a system to get their information, because when we started the liquor audit, they literally had to move about 8 customs officers had to be brought into the warehouse to go through the boxes to find the documents that we needed. That's ridiculous. It should have been able to be scanned and you could have searched it, but it wasn't. And they told Vince when he went down to interview them last week that they were really thankful that our audits have spurned have caused the legislature to want to do that, and they're really looking forward to that so that they don't have to bring in 8 customs officers to go through boxes to file, to look to see where documents are. But it's just an investment in personnel and in technology that's going to bring everything up, that'll make it easier. I know there was questions yesterday about the FMIS, or was it the day before yesterday? I'm hoping that that's going to finally make it a little bit easier. But you can have a system, and if you don't have properly trained personnel, it's who's inputting in order to be able to get the output. And until we invest in people to make the proper input, you're not going to get the proper output.
Well, I certainly appreciate your insight, public auditor. You've sat in every branch of government and have excelled in your performance in every branch of government. So certainly, we take into high consideration the recommendations that you have made. But we also know that these management issues certainly rest on the shoulders of those department directors and the administration that's running this government. You need to know where your weak points are. What do you need to do to address it? There are decisions that can be made at the director level with regards to position descriptions that they can always update through and modify through the Department of Administration. They can ensure that they can increase the salary level, and if it's beyond that, then they should be knocking at our door saying this is where we need help. And we have not, nobody's breaking the door down. And these are things that when you run a department or agency, you have to have insight and you have to prioritize. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, that has not been the case. Delivery has been a challenge in these departments, and I don't know how people strive to be in positions of leadership when they can't perform. I think we would know if that was us and we could not execute, we would probably turn in our resignation and step down because we're doing a disservice to the people we're supposed to be serving. So I appreciate, again, all the work that you do. We count on the information that you provide to improve this government and ensure ultimately that we are all accountable for the work that we do and the money that we spend on the people's behalf. So thank you again, Mr. Public Auditor, for your work, and thank your staff. And we look forward to continuing to work with you and support you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to ask these questions and comment.
Thank you, Senator Brown. I'd like to also recognize Senator Blas joined us this morning. Senator Tello, you have any questions for the auditor?
Yes, I do. Questions and then comments, of course, and good morning to my colleagues. I'm so disappointed, Public Auditor and Vince. I know that Senator Brown touched on the bill that we tried to override the governor's veto, and we tried to speak to our colleagues. They all voted yes on the bill. We had 10 sponsors, number one, so we thought the bill was going to pass. And everybody unanimously voted on this. I don't know how many times we've come in public hearings or when you come to testify that all of us sat here and promised you brought up that word earlier, promised you to be committed to helping your agency. This is what, follow the money, and you're going to know exactly who's doing what's going on, and what can be done and what can't be done. You just follow the money, and that's what we rely on you to do. A lot of the individuals didn't realize that the bill allowed you to create the rules and regs on how to approach these directors, or who's going to get fined, or it could even be created within your office to allow a waiver for these individuals who, beyond their control, in the event they're not able to provide the information needed to your office in a timely manner. I mean, you would have that discretion. And it's ridiculous to not hold these agencies and directors accountable. I'm pretty sure, BJ, if this bill had passed, you're going to see those agencies, those directors, doing everything that you mentioned earlier that they need get done. It's just so disheartening to see what happened. And every single one, next time I hear one of these senators over here saying, oh, we support your office, we'll do everything you can to help your office, they're lying to you. They are totally lying to you. So I'm going to continue, BJ and Vince, because I know you are such a hard worker there. I'm going to continue to have this bill overridden. And next session, we're going to call those people out who don't believe in accountability, who don't believe in transparency. And maybe I need to remind them that you have the discretionary to decide who gets fined. Like I said, you'll create these rules and regulations. And I'm sure, BJ, you're a good man, an honest man. You were a judge, for goodness sake, to provide those individuals with the, a waiver or understanding that it was beyond their control, that they couldn't get it to you in time. We only have 2 more months before the audit is supposed to be out. 2 more months. And I am so worried at this point. We have to do a budget where it stopped raining federal funds. We have to do a budget where the population has decreased, and there goes our tax base as well. We are continuing to see people purchase products online and not capturing those taxes on Guam. We're continuing, that is a big issue. We're seeing stores close down because they don't have enough people to man the stores. Restaurants closing at the hour of 6:30 or 7 o'clock when they used to be open till 10 o'clock, but because they don't have the manpower. So there's a huge issue, and this body needs that information by the public auditor. We need to see where that money is. And again, next time I hear a senator tell you they promised to help and assist this office because it's so critical and important to our body, I will call them a liar if they voted no on that override. But I will bring it up again every single month until the doggone election. Till the doggone election, I will point those individuals out. Actually, they've been pointing it out to me. Texts, emails, people talking about it. This is the water cooler, are who those individuals are. So I'm sorry to keep pushing on this. I'm passionate about it because I love numbers. When it comes to numbers, you know that, BJ. I read everything that comes out of your office, and I discuss with you when there's a question. So that's why your office, and I promise you, I will continue to fight for it. That being said, I do have a question with you regarding cybersecurity in your office. What have you taken, what steps have you taken to protect the data that you hold within your office? And do you have a contingency in the event that it's shut down or hacked for some reason?
Yes, okay. Yes, of course. Thank you, Senator, for that question. Regarding cybersecurity in our office, we have a standalone system separate and apart from the rest of the government of Guam.
From DOA, right?
From DOA,
from,
yes.
From Office of Technology?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's separate and apart.
Yes,
okay.
So with all of our software and our systems, we actually have an IT consultant that we've contracted out, and he comes in on a bi-weekly basis just to ensure that all of our audit working papers and all, basically all of our IT infrastructure is not only kept up to date, but also kept safe and from all of the issues that you're talking about cybersecurity and having any hackers or any issues like that. So we're very confident in the steps that we've taken. Regarding contingency, yes, we have contingencies, we have backups to our backups to our backups. Good. So because of all the information that we're given, especially when we do our audit fieldwork, we really hold those audit working papers with such confidence that, you know, it's like a, a Chinese wall. If someone tries to come in and get it, I mean, just even in certain cases, other agencies or sometimes law enforcement agencies will come in and ask us for the information, and we're like, hold up, you know, because our working papers are actually protected by law. So, and that's all placed on our systems. We have an audit software that we engaged with the company in Australia, called Teammate Plus, and so yeah, we've taken all of the necessary precautions necessary to protect all of the information that we have, and people trying to penetrate our systems, we have someone watching it for us, pretty much.
Do you have somebody in your office, not the one that you've contracted, but somebody in your office dedicated to ensuring that everything is up?
We have a committee that we put together of all auditors.
Any of them an IT person?
They have a bit of an IT background, yes, they in their previous position. But again, we always work with our IT consultant. We're on a daily basis, calls on daily basis if we ever needed him, and he'll be there within the afternoon if we needed him. Yeah.
Well, I do recommend you look at what happened at Guam Memorial Hospital when they were actually, you know, hacked. I would call hacked, and make sure that you don't fall in that same situation. Okay, it's particularly the Guam Memorial Hospital scenario, and when they got hacked and things shut down. Okay, that's good to hear, and there's enough sufficient funding for that that you incorporated in your budget. Okay, the other one I had was, yeah, that was regarding the contract, because I noticed on your contract did not go up at all. Contractual services? I didn't see anything go up at all. And, you know, in this day and age, I mean, things are going up sky high. I'm surprised. How did you get by with no increase?
Having been in his position, I'm very, very tight-fisted. These guys know it, and I don't spend unless it's absolutely, absolutely, absolutely necessary. I mean, most of the expenditure, I mean, I even pay for my own I personally pay for my own travel and for the equipment that I have in my office. I don't want the office to pay for it. And they keep telling me, no, we'll pay for it. I go, no, I'll pay for it. I just don't want anybody to talk about it. But I really should be, in transparency, should mention to the committee, you mentioned the GovGuam audit. I can tell you today that we finally have the signed contract for the GovGuam audit. Unfortunately, it was just finalized this week.
The GovGuam?
For the government, the single audit for the government of Guam.
Okay.
The audit was just signed. The contract was just signed Monday by the governor, last year, because of the cost of the audit, Mr. Byrne and I decided that we would do a one-year contract and see if EY was going to be able to handle the government audit. We were satisfied with the work that was done, and so we bid out again. Unfortunately, it took several months to get the bid, the RFP, completed and then get all the signatures. And because GovGuam increased its salary 22% last year for all the rest of us, EY had to increase the salaries of its auditors because we were getting paid more than they were. And so they increased. The contract went up about 25%, but the appropriation for the contract at DOA was at a different number, the old number. And so in order to get the contract out, I had to put in. I figured that since the Office of Public Accountability is responsible for the audit, and you've given me the authority to pay out, that also means that if it's necessary, the office is going to have to also pay for contracts to do the audit. And it was short about 85,000. So what I did was I instructed Vince and the Finance Committee to authorize DOA to move. We had one vacant position for the year. We hired him, but then he left us. We have enough money saved from his position, moved it to contractual obligations. And our office contributed about 85,000 to the overall contract to be able to meet that so that it wasn't going to be delayed. Otherwise, the certification would have been denied by BBMR. In fact, it was delayed by BBMR because they went into AS 400 and found that the authorization, the certification for the contract was short 31,000. And so we had to put 85,000 into that in order to be able to meet the contractual amount. But I felt that was necessary. I mean, the Finance Committee wasn't very happy with me because they had other plans for that money. But I felt that the need to get that audit and have no questions about certified funds.
Okay,
we had to contribute it.
So public audit, does that mean that this year the audit is going to be late again?
Oh, definitely.
And by how much?
Well,
About how long will it take? Your estimate?
I think it may come out as late as last year's.
Later than November?
Oh, no, not,
Okay.
well, I'm hoping not later than November. Well, that depends. As you understand, in order to get the Gov Guam audit out, you have to get all the component units
Right.
finished. And until GDOE gets itself together and gets its audit out, it'll delay the Gov Guam way. I think a few years ago, I think you remember when I complained about the fact that the audit was out late because GURA
Because GURA was behind, right?
was late.
Right.
And when GURA was late, it held up the Gov Guam one. This year, besides the late contract and late start, the Gov Guam wide audit will be delayed till probably September or October.
Would there be like maybe just a kind of cursory review of what we're anticipating to give us some guidance as we go through the budget? You know, we're going to be going, I think, Mr. Chair, is it August we'll be going into session for budget? About August? July, August, about the end of July, August. Can you give us kind of a cursory view of what's anticipated?
I'll get as much information as
Thank
I can.
you.
I can be brought back and we'll
Great.
testify as to what
Okay.
I know is going on and what you need to know.
Okay, that would be very helpful, but unfortunately still, it's going to be difficult. I always thought it was going to be this new financial management system at DOA that's going to cause the delay. But, I mean, that's a huge mess. I thought that one would be the delay. I mean, we know about DOE, but I heard that there's some good, I just heard last night, actually, that there's some good things happening at DOE when it comes to getting their financials together, but I really thought it was a mess.
I really hope so. I asked
Yeah, let's hope.
yesterday, but I haven't gotten
Light a
an answer
candle.
yet.
You should have like a whole shrine with different candles for every agency up there. Because doggone it, this body's not helping you out in getting that done. Might as well light those candles. The office space, I notice your office space is still at the same amount. I'm in the same office space. And I know they're have some increases going on there. Their power, their water's been increasing. And do you have any contingency funds set aside in the event? Okay.
Senator, going back to the previous question you had about contracts, what
Sure.
we realized was that whenever we enter into contracts with various vendors, we always have extension clauses. So those extension clauses always make it so that it's a set amount. And that's the same thing that we did with the current lease.
Yeah.
To answer your
So
current
it's in
question.
sync with your budget.
Yes, it's in sync. It's
Perfect.
also in sync with the rotation of the public auditor's election. So we give them some time if there is going to be a newly elected public auditor, or they have some time. They're not going to be kicked out right the first, or have issues with lease space when the new public auditor gets in. So for that particular lease, it expires in 2025, September 30th. So we're going to eventually, I think by the summer of next year, go out for a new office space, and we'll probably put in our request for next fiscal year. So, but to answer that question, it's we have the extensions that we've been exercising that allows us to maintain the current levels. Also, with respect to some of our other contractual obligations that we have, we always budget for the hearing officers and legal counsel. But fortunately for our office, we have a highly respected lawyer on staff. So he's been able to pretty much offset any issues that need, especially with the hearing officers, you know, because those are also on a contractual basis and on an as-needed basis. So we've been able to utilize the public auditor and his background as an attorney to kind of oversee most of the hearing cases. So that's how we were able to save in that area and move to other areas that we need for contracts.
Thank you, Vince. And, you know, public auditor, my hat's off to you. To me, you almost sound like one of the teachers in our DOE system school taking money out of their own pocket to pay for supplies for their classroom because DOE is not forking it out. And, you know, you're doing the same thing. You have been doing the same thing at the public auditor's office and paying your own travel from now, you know, providing your professional expertise. You've saved this office quite a bit of money. At least we could have passed that doggone bill for you. At the least. I agree. Okay, my last question. Yeah, we're going to continue. No, we're not giving up because you haven't given up. My last question, Mr. Chair, if I may. In your testimony, you said that on the first paragraph, right after 2 staff promotions and the addition of 2 new accountability auditors. Are these positions already filled? Okay, so these are vacant positions. The 2 new accountability auditors are still vacant at this point.
Yes, Senator.
Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure, and you still need those bodies. Okay, that's all I have. Again, thank you for all you're doing. Yes, go ahead.
The fact that I've been able to get the staff up and to get their salaries up, I'm really happy about the number of performance audits that have been getting out. Last year we got out at 11. This year so far we've issued 6. We have 8 audits, performance audits, that the engagement letter has already gone out and they've started. Some are in field work and some are ready to be released. And so I'm confident that before the end of the year that we'll get at least 14, maybe as many as 17 audits out this year. And so I'm really happy about the staff that I have, and I commend. They're constantly work. Not only do they work on the audits, but they all belong to committees within the office because we need to do things. We need to do things ourselves. We have a IT committee. We have a hotline committee. We have even maintenance and operation of the vehicles committee because, and someone is responsible for making sure. But they have willingly volunteered to do additional stuff besides the great audits that they turn out all the time, and so I'm really proud of them.
No, thank you so much for recognizing. We do recognize the hard work, and that's why we're trying to do whatever we can to help you as well. At least 8 of us or 9 of us are trying to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Tyree. Senator Blas, do you have any questions for the auditor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Your Honor, thank you very much. Vince, thank you for being here. And actually, Your Honor, you touched on the question that I had actually for you. A few days ago, you were in front of the Rotary, and you were talking about your workload and the audits that were pending. Can you expound on that a little bit more with what we can expect or with those audits?
Thank you very much for the question, Senator. It was before the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh,
and
right, Chamber.
At that point, I told them that we had already issued 6 including the one on the GDOA laptops and some other performance audits. The outstanding audits, we're doing one on Medicaid. We're doing one on compensations at the hospital. I mean, as I mentioned to them, on a weekly basis, we get someone calling in or texting in something about compensation of the doctors. And as difficult as that's going to be, we're going to get that out. We have one on nonprofit organizations. I'm concerned about whether or not revenue and taxation is regularly following up on nonprofit organizations. And I'm hoping that once that's completed, that we'll be able to go back and look and see. We saw a number of nonprofits get grants from the government under the pandemic program, and to check whether or not we were having problems with that issue here, whether or not people that had just gotten their nonprofit designation the day before they got, or the day after they got their grant, to check on that. The credit card one will continue. We about 5 more agencies to go. I know, what other ones? We have one that we started on Guam Homeland Security. I'm trying to figure out. Which one's I missed? I think that's about it. Well,
from what you just told me, I mean, one of the things that caught my attention, caught my ear, I guess when the news story broke, was that you had said that one of them was going to be, how did you characterize it as a priority, or this it's going to catch the news? Okay, but everything that you just said would catch the news. So, which one were you mentioning as far as priority? I mean,
I made mention of the fact that all of them should,
okay,
because they're going to bring, I mean, hopefully, some accountability and transparency on things that happened, and hopefully will bring about improvements. Want to make sure that people are doing things that they're supposed to be doing. As I mentioned to senators earlier, the problem that some of these agencies have is that they are operating without people who understand the responsibility they have to get reports done on time, and the consequences of not getting reports done on time. And so those are the things that we're looking at.
You know, along those lines, and you says that you mentioned that you frequently get phone calls, you know, and tips, for lack of a better term, of certain things. You know, at one point in time, the government had what was called the Office of the Ombudsman, or Office of the Surahano. And, you know, there was some discussion about whether or not, unfortunately, you know, a lot of these discussions come as a result of things that are currently occurring. And more so today than, apparently, it feels like more so today in this era, in this time, than in years past, that there's probably there's some validity in with regard to whether or not that kind of an office should be resurrected, or whether or not there's a hybrid that can be formed. Have you ever thought about that? And with regards to, I don't. It's like putting an extra responsibility, but then it's further recognizing already what is happening in your office. You know, with regard to, you know, the Office of the Surahano and the Office of Public Accountability. You know, it's like potato, if you think about it. And
I really would hate to have that put into our office, because as it is right now, a lot of people are treating our office as if it was the Serrano's office. We have siblings quarreling with each other and wanting us to do an audit on whether or not that one sibling is filing their rent, their gross receipts on a rental property that had been family owned. I now have someone who texts me, I mean, not text, but emails me, because I mean, my email is public, in all caps at least 4 times a day on he's believing that there's some spirits that are coming out and doing things. And I have another one where a person's just trying to get their not Chamorro land trust, but the arriendo that they had back in the 70s, the whether or not that, and I don't have enough. I mean, my staff is already burdened enough dealing with things that are in the millions. I mean, I don't want to say that these people's concerns are irrelevant, but we have to make a priority decision, and unfortunately, unless it's in the millions or tens of millions, we're not going to be looking at it, because it just doesn't rate. When we are doing the evaluation of whether or not we should do an audit, one of the first questions is how much of a risk is that, and how much does it entail?
I appreciate that. You know, again, it's trying to find different areas, and I agree. You know, I think the last example of what I think we've all experienced that same individual is probably called all of us too. Okay, so we know what you're talking about. So, you know, I'm very interested in, with the budget that you're going to be getting, and you said you average about, how many audits do you average in a year that you can be able to sustain with the budget that you're getting?
Well, my predecessor issued one. I had a rule, I think it was 1 a month. So it was close to about between 10 and 12 a year. When I came on, I've been trying to get 2 audits for each of from each of the ones, because in order to get 2 from the 7 or 8 that I have as ones, it means that the 4s that I have to do the quality assurance review, and that takes a lot of time. I mean, sometimes I've seen some QARs that have taken almost a month. So it takes a lot of time to do the QAR, and then an audit, accountability auditor 3 has to be in charge of the one that is doing the audit, accountability auditor 1 that's doing the work, and so they're busy. So I've tried to tell them that I really want to see them produce 2 apiece, which means that the 4 auditor 3s will have to be doing 4 QARs besides overseeing the audits that they're doing.
So I want to use your DI math. Okay.
I'm trying to get it up to 14. I mean, 14 to 16 audits a year.
14 to 16 audits a year, and with based on what you're seeing, I mean, even at the high end at 16 audits, are you playing catch up, or is that just something that nothing would fall between the cracks, or?
Oh, there's plenty falling between the cracks. There's lots of audits that really, that could have and should have been done, or should be being done immediately, you know. I apologize that it's taken so long to do the hospital one, the compensation. That has been on our list since 2020 or 2018. And finally this year I said, as difficult as that's going to be, let's do it. The other one is Medicaid, you know, that's...
A tidbit of information that I'm going to share with you with regards to the GMH and compensation. GMH has yet to have paid any of its employees their merit bonuses that they've earned. And right now they total what they owe to employees at $895,000, close to $895,000. And yet we have, you know, authorizations for pay raises and promotions and people being hired on board, you know, at exuberant rates and salaries, when you still have when you still have what is mandated to be paid, because merit bonuses by statute. And you know, you got one hand saying they don't have the money to provide it, and they have another hand saying we don't have to provide the money. So you can have that discussion later on offline with you, but to add that to your woes with GMH.
No, I'm hoping that's not something that you want us to do. I know one senator wanted us to do a study on RAS, how many agencies and how many employees are being put on with the RAS petition about step recruiting.
Yeah, and I hope that that audit will also include whether or not they're the qualification, they meet the actual qualifications to do the job. You know, I got a disturbing call yesterday from an individual working at the hospital, making about $24,000 a year, having to answer to an individual who was recently hired as a program coordinator, making $54,000 a year, and with less than half the knowledge that other employee has and answerable to, and whether or not and how that other employee, that $54,000 employee, got the job. So I hope that's included in here.
That would be a whole new audit on the creation of the position program coordinator.
Oops, I just made it 15. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Blas. Auditor, you mentioned 4 agencies. You're concerned about having accountants and auditors, DOA, Public Health, DOE, and DRT. Am I correct? Is that the only 4 you're really eyeing that they may have a problem? And the reason why I ask is because the budget's going to be coming up. I'm going to ask them that question. Are they investing in that? I'll be looking at their budget anyway, but I wanted to ask that question. And as you mentioned, if they had folks dedicated to the auditing and accounting, I'm just trying to figure out a way how you can have a hold of them so that it gets done. So then there's no excuse in anything getting to you. And maybe you can just send me something separate and we can work that.
I'm not sure that the OPA should have control of them. They should be independent.
Yeah, they've been independent for the past 20 years or 30, and they haven't done anything right. So anyway.
Let me think about it. I'm trying to figure out whether or not that would even violate their charter as auditors, to have somebody outside of the office overseeing their operations.
And the only reason I'm asking that is because right now, like, DOE's having a problem with their auditors. The auditors are having a problem trying to make sure the accountants are getting their job done. And that's what they're caught with. And it's sad for Frank Coupenhurst. He's trying to get this right. And he remember, he used to work at your office, so he's like trying to make it right, and then he's finding out that, well, the accountants, I need the information. And that's why I'm asking this question, where you can get some direct input where kind of like corners them, because right now the board has actually forced the auditors to report to them so they can get numbers right, but it's not working. But anyway.
Let me think about it.
We'll get back with us. And with that, I want to thank everyone for attending this hearing and for providing feedback and suggestion. The Office of Public Accountability Budget Hearing is now adjourned. It is now 10:05. Thank you, Speaker Auditor Cruz. Thank you all for being here, and Jesus Masi.